Jealousy isn't the threat, disconnection is. In relationships, so many of us try to handle hard emotions by acting like we're fine. But being fine doesn't create maturity, it quietly creates distance. In this episode, we're going to show you a completely different way through jealousy, attraction, insecurity, anything that can be threatening to the bond. We're going to break it down into three things. One, the hidden disconnect being fine creates and why it erodes intimacy over time. Two, how to create real safety, including the role of thirds in relationships and how they slowly pull you out of the bond without you even noticing. And three, how to take self-responsibility without doing it alone. So jealousy becomes a doorway to deeper intimacy, not a wedge. This is the exact work we guide couples through inside our signature program, Evolutionary Relationship, The Initiation, where the goal isn't to avoid triggers, it's to learn how to meet them together. If you're interested, scroll down in the show notes. There's a link. If you want to hop on a call to explore if that's a resonant fit, if that's the next step for you and your partner, we'd be happy to explore that together. All right, now let's dive into today's episode.
Okay, so attraction and jealousy. I got to journey this pretty intimately with Mike when I had a baby. And, earlier on in Mike's and I's relationship, I didn't have a lot of jealousy. I felt really confident in my capacity to meet Mike. I felt really confident in that I was a good match for him. And when I would feel other women attracted to him or other powerful women around him, I would just move towards our bond. I would just feed our bond. And that felt so powerful and beautiful that I didn't feel threatened. Fast forward to now I'm a mom of a baby and a toddler. So much of my life energy is going in to tending this little being. And suddenly Mike and I's connection points are these little moments, right? Having sex when we're tired and having, beautiful, profound conversations in the middle of a screaming child and all the to-dos. And suddenly the shininess, the deep intimacy, the space for that, me being a super resourced woman and juicy woman wasn't as present. And then in walks Mike starting to do his coaching business. And he's actually working with women and supporting women powerfully. I was so excited about him doing this work. I knew it's a big part of what he's here to do. My soul, my heart was like, yes, Mike needs to be supporting women in this way. And to paint the picture, here he is. He's got all these women that he is messaging with on WhatsApp, right? And doing powerful sessions with. And these are beautiful, powerful women. These are women who, are wanting to dive deeper. They're choosing to relate with the masculine better. Many of them really beautiful, flying around the world, powerful in their business. And so, theoretically, Courtney's like, yeah, right? But in the real moment, there I am in the kitchen, right? I'm a breastfeeding mom. I'm a mess, trying to look beautiful. I'm wearing my dress, but my earrings hanging off halfway. I got spit up all over me. I love it. It's yes. But then, here I am in the kitchen and I'm feeling this where I'm at. And then I can feel these women, right? And I can feel that in this moment in the kitchen, it's late at night. I want Mike to be listening to my emotions. I want Mike to be holding me in my emotional vulnerability. I want Mike to be listening to my beautiful spiritual musings in my heart and seeing me. But, Mike is out in his office messaging these women about their emotions and their feelings and, and the higher self in me is so on board. The human part of me is feeling scared, feeling insecure, feeling resentful. I remember some of the feelings that started arising in me were, now I'm just a a mom, and there's all these women that are doing yoga and breath practices, and they're in their juicy feminine, and he's probably feeling how sparkly and alive they are. And, I'm not in the same way, and so I'm not enough. I'm not as beautiful. I'm not as interesting. And these little feelings in my heart would sneak in of, oh, what if I'm not enough? What if he starts to feel these other women in the stage they're in, and he starts to doubt my beauty, my shine, my gifting, And also I remember the even deeper layer that started to get touched on in me of, I feel her. And this is so connected to my father wound too, of the little girl felt, I'm not interesting enough. He wants to support these other women in their emotions, but I'm not interesting enough. And of course this was emerging because before Mike was a coach, I was the woman that he would support emotionally. And when he became a coach, he would have nights where he's tired. He's been supporting people all day. He's tired. He doesn't want to support someone emotionally. So that got in there even more. And I was just feeling this. And then really in my process of loving and integrating this part, knowing I need to move towards Mike in this and starting to share about it, starting to share what I was feeling, starting to be vulnerable about what was coming up, which for me, there was a layer of that was easy because I knew that was needed. I'd learned that in previous relationships, but it was very tender to be seen because before I was doing it as the juicy maiden who was resourced and shiny and had done all her practices. And now I was doing it as his mom that's like, I'm not feeling as resourced and juicy. And that was vulnerable and more of the deeper layers of, am I enough? Can you love me in this stage? Can you love me as a mom? Can you love me when I haven't done all my practices and I'm not on a beach, tuning into the cosmos and talking to you about these things? Can you love me? It was so vulnerable. And I remember how powerful it was. And sometimes I did it gracefully and sometimes I didn't. There was a little bit of a snarl sometimes in there. But what was powerful in it was how Mike was really able to respond, how Mike was able to hear me, because of course the deeper feeling, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this feeling, the fear that then I'll be told, well, that's yours. You need to deal with it. That's your issue. Why are you feeling jealous anyway? Oh, you're trying to control me, right? One of my fears was, is Mike going to think I want to take away his gifting? Is he going to think that I don't want him doing his work? Because that's not what it is. I'm not wanting to take that away from him. I just don't know what to do with these insecurities that are coming up and they were really affecting my capacity to be sexual, to open to him, because I would hit this place that was scared. But instead he moved towards me. He heard me. He was able to acknowledge the fears he had coming up in that, because there was, I think, a few layers of, am I going to lose I'll let you speak to that. Like, am I going to lose my dharma? But the beauty of us being able to go into that together and find a way. And, we negotiated first of all, what am I needing to reestablish a sense of safety? And one of the number one ones for me, right, that I had to get clear on in myself and ask for is I need to be able to tell you anytime it's coming up. And when I tell you, I really need that to matter. I need you to show care. I need you to move towards me with your body and say reassuring things. And like, for me, that's 75% of it. Now, if you didn't, or got defensive, or moved away from me in that, then the feeling would get bigger, because I understood this is on a level, this is for me to move through in myself. Mike is here to do this. I need to find my footing. I need to find my way. But I was also needing you to really hear, I'm feeling extra vulnerable because I'm a mom of a baby and this is new terrain, and I need that to matter. It was like me putting up a red flag going, help, this is happening. I don't know how to stay connected to you in this without starting to talk about it. And I'm curious, Mike, what helped you move towards me in that? Why were you able to move towards me?
Well, I had a really incredible inspiration in my life that gave me the felt sense and experience of how valuable tending the bond is. I'm forever grateful for you in that. And
why I was the person?
Yeah.
Aww.
And, this is the story that I told on the Mark Groves podcast where it really landed, because so many of the parts of me believed in the narrative that were challenging, which is so much of culture and other people would tell me it's fine. You need to be fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And it wasn't fine. It wasn't fine in my body. And I remember when we were at the cabin and I was in a really tender place and being torn up inside, actually, around the theme of jealousy inside of me and insecurities. And I did what I always learned to do, is I went off into nature by myself and pushed you away and said, I'm fine. I've got this. I'll work through this. I'm triggered. That's mine. You followed me. Some would say you didn't honor my boundary. No, just kidding. Just kidding. And I'm glad you didn't. And because there was a wisdom, you knew something I didn't know yet, and you initiated me in it. And it was when you came up to me while I was laying on the grass on the side of our mountain, and I felt so small inside and defeated and insecure. And you came down, dropped onto your knees, and gave me the felt sense of reassurance in a way that I'd never experienced before in a partnership. And you offered over, you didn't mother me, but you offered over mothering qualities, and you pierced me with the words of, I'm here and I'm always going to be here. And that sentence made its way through all of my hurt and wounding and helped me feel in that moment that I was more than enough, that I was a priority just in the moment. And I could let that in and feel that. And it initiated me into an awareness and an understanding that I couldn't unsee, unlearn, unknow. And that was, this is what this is about. Like our relationship, everything that we had been calling in, of wanting to be on this path of sacred relationship and be initiated in masculinity and femininity, all these things. I felt it. I'm like, right, we're in each other's care. We're here to serve and be supportive to each other's healing. And so that moment that I experienced from you has given me a forever till the end of time feeling of reciprocity and wanting to give back in the places that you don't got it or feel scared, and care about that and want to offer that experience back as many times as I can so that we both feel safer to be here.
Oh, it was I remember the relief when I named the vulnerability that was coming up. I named what was coming up for me in being a new mama and you working with women intimately. And the relief in me when you just said, oh, sweetie, I didn't know that was happening. I really want to sort this out together. That was 75% of it, right? Now it was, it's already lessened a lot. This is going to be way easier to work through. Just that, right? And then your willingness to have me share. And, even some of the things we worked out in that was with some of the women, for example, if he was building, not so much with the women he was coaching, but in a collaboration with a woman, or would be that I would also build a close connection with whoever he was collaborating with, and coming up with these parameters to help me build a sense of safety. And it's interesting, I actually needed different parameters because I was a mama than I needed before when I was a maiden. So it also speaks to that will change depending on where we're at and where we're at in ourselves and what's coming up in this scenario.
I'd love to add a layer. It's the mama part, but also it was me in a new part of my business where my business blew up when I really attuned to and met a niche market, which is helping women heal their relationship to the masculine. Like that's when my business took off. And so there was the mama part, but there was also, we were in our relationship in new terrain of what my business was, which even just that in itself is vulnerable. Wait, what? A mama? And now you've just discovered your business of supporting all these empowered women. And that was vulnerable, I'd say, even without the mama. And what I'm hearing is the mama part added a whole nother layer. Is that right? Or would you say different?
I think I had different coping strategies of how I would have dealt with it before. And I didn't have access to those. Like, so before, what I would have done when I was a maiden is I would have fed her, hey, Mike, let's go on a juicy date. Oh, I'm feeling insecure. Hey, let's make love tonight for many hours. Oh, I'm feeling insecure. I'm going to really nourish myself this morning and make myself so beautiful and get so in my spirit. Right. And then I'm going to go spend hours connecting with Mike. Well, hello, none of that's available anymore. So what had happened was the ways I had learned to work with that weren't available. And then that made me feel even more vulnerable that I couldn't do any of those things.
Which is interesting because when I hear you talk about that, it really reminds me of what was going on inside of me around that. And why I was able to feel so much attraction in us. For me, it was the vulnerability. It was you being real that something was happening and not just saying you were fine. Because I feel there's a place that could have happened of you not exposing that you weren't fine. And that would have impacted the attraction. But for you to go so vulnerable and expose your heart to me and share that, I remember feeling this is sexy. Like this isn't what I get with my clients. Like I remember being able to name and speak to you also, where it was helpful for both of us, saying, I'm there supporting them. I'm not getting met, or I'm not feeling how much they want to meet me. I can feel how much you care and you want to meet me, but you're tired and there's this. And like, this is what's here and this is beautiful. And I remember feeling that both of us kind of awoke into a deeper truth there. And because we were in the intimacy of both of us being vulnerable in that place.
The reassurance and you deepening in why you felt close to me and and then also it opened up this whole terrain of me being able to reach and us having this agreement of when that's coming up, I could reach, and you learning how to meet me in that. And me learning how to reassure you that it's not me wanting to squish your business. Because one of the things that was really important in that whole story is I was really reassuring Mike, I'm not saying you can't work with these people. I'm not saying that wasn't where I was coming from, right? So I also felt this devotion to you doing your dharma. But how do we do it in a way that there's safety? And we've done that. It's been a step-by-step process of, we both support people emotionally and intimately. And sometimes, in person, there's touch and all of it, right? Because do touch work with the nervous system or supporting things to unwind in people.
The ultimate initiation.
Yeah.
Somatic practitioners, emotionally intimately connecting with clients and getting to know their history and helping them heal their mother and father wounds and touch and talk about the ultimate surrender and needing to really embody what we're sharing in this episode.
Yes. Yeah. And we're parents. So it's not as if at the end of supporting a client, we can necessarily go and just hold each other, right? Because now our son's having a meltdown, and now
we're going in to record a podcast.
And so the dance of this. And so this is what we're really wanting to dive into with you all today is, for us, we really want to get into the juice of our disruptive take on this, is that in mainstream culture, what a lot of people will tell you is that it's really about when it comes to jealousy and attraction, that it's really about being okay in yourself, being fine in yourself, finding the way to be okay and fine with whatever is happening for your partner. And what we want to come in and say is that actually it's really about two pieces. It's about going through it together, dealing with the insecurities together, actually facing it together in connection. And B, in that place, finding the liberation and the freedom and the growth and the evolution together.
Yeah, because it's so important that jealousy here in the relationship isn't the threat, the disconnection is.
Yes.
And so we need to be allies to figure out how to nourish, tend, and protect the connection. And this is the paradigm shift, because it's really easy to listen to the narrative in our culture of, well, you know what? Heck with them. Like, that's just bullshit and you should get out of there. Or, wow,
they're controlling. That's controlling.
That's controlling or codependent. You should get out, find somebody who isn't so jealous, or whatever the situation. And there's ones for women too of, oh, you know, he's bringing home the money, so it's just fine. That needs to be fine because there's so much else he does. And there's lots of gaslighting that happens in our culture to accept mediocrity, to accept relationally threatening behaviors, because the feeling of jealousy isn't the threat. The relational ingredients that are misattuned to tending the bond, that's what's dangerous. Because if you and I don't feel connected while we're living our life, we aren't going to be present in ourselves. We're not going to have the overflowing cup to give to our son, to our clients, to all the things, because, and this has been proven and studied by one of our mentors, Stan Takin, couples have been studied for years. There's so much cortisol that gets released and dumped if we're disconnected. If we aren't tending our bond and both feel like we have both feet in and can have both feet in and want to be and choose that and protect it and nurture it, we will just be in a threat response within our own selves. And then we will feel jealous and we feel even more insecure, and we'll push away and we'll threaten the bond, or we'll dissociate, or we'll self-soothe, and we'll use pornography to not have, instead of having the uncomfortable conversation and share things that aren't fine. Like, what we're saying is we actually need to get the information and the data from what's not actually feeling fine, because we don't want to bypass that. We want to learn what's needed to integrate that place.
Yeah. And so, you know, another version of this, of what creates disconnection in the being fine, is the spiritual version, right? So a very common thing is where in the spiritual world is that the ideal is to get to the point where we're just fine with whatever our partner's doing, finding equanimity, being unattached, right? And there is a place where working on that in ourselves is helpful, right? It's helpful to work with our reactivity and the emotions that come up. But you know, what I want to share is I've been a therapist for 15 years now. I've worked with so many different people. And I would tell you that across the board, when people in their relationship are doing things like, as an example, where basically anywhere where they're not tending the bond, they're more prioritizing this place of being fine with whatever's here. As an example, you know, believing that we should just have so much openness that we tell each other anytime we're attracted to anyone, and we're just totally open about our attractions anytime we have any fantasies or thoughts about another person, is an example. Another example is where when jealousy comes up between us and our partner, thinking, oh, well, that means we're codependent, so now we need to take more space. I need to go into my own seat. You need to go into your own seat. Another one is telling each other, if you tell me you're jealous, then you need to go deal with that because there's a part of you that isn't accepting of my path, right? But if you notice in all of these, it's separation based. We're separating. We're saying you're over here and I'm over here, and we need to deal with this by ourselves. Or it's separating in the sense of, Stan Tatkin talks about this as thirds. It's where we are actually connecting with other things, people, identities, screens, whatever it is, first before connecting with our partner. We're actually prioritizing other things. So as an example, if I come in and I just start to tell Mike about an attraction that I had for someone at the gas station or one of our friends, let's say, and I'm not aware of our bond first and the impact on him, and I'm prioritizing instead my sovereign choice to share that, but not really being curious about the deeper impact of that, there's all these little paper cuts, right? They're paper cuts that happen to the relationship. And what happens is there's a disconnect. There's a valuing independence and individual sovereignty and being fine in ourselves over the bond. And I am telling you, at the beginning of my therapy career, I would have thought that those things would have fed more security. That's what I thought. And I watched over and over and over again that the relationships where they're doing these things, it doesn't build a deeper connection. Across the board, what ends up happening is it ends up creating more and more distance and separation. And this is because it's not actually, the primary focus isn't on connection. It's on something else. And so maybe we do build more of a capacity to let our partner do whatever and go sleep with that person. But if we're not cultivating the bond itself, if we're not staying intimate and vulnerable and real in the process, we are losing the actual connection at the cost of, I'm going to toughen up and I'm going to be fine. And so what we're coming in to say is it's actually the connection needs to be at the center. So there's not a right or wrong about what you as a couple decide is allowed to be a part of your couple bubble, your couple sphere, your couple cosmos, right? You guys get to decide how you navigate, what's a part of your culture, what's not a part of your culture. But at the center needs to be the safety and the connection. And if there's anything you're relating with that's being prioritized above that, it will threaten the bond. So if Mike is telling me something feels unsafe and I don't prioritize and make that important, and I choose to do it anyway, I choose to let him deal with it himself, I choose, I want to be in a relationship where this is fine and I'm deciding that this is fine, that in the end will chip away at the bond and will lead to more and more disconnection and jealousy.
Because my attachment system and nervous system's just going to cope in whatever way I'm either consciously aware of or unconsciously aware of. So what that may look like, and we've had certain experiences in our relationship where we still haven't built out the deeper awareness, or we're still getting to know each other, and we weren't, maybe initiated in all these teachings that we've absorbed from our mentors over the years. There were phases where, we created ouchies and we missed that part. And when the ouchies happened, when I look back, there were defense strategies immediately. Not going to open up as much, not be as vulnerable, not going to share the thing, going to pull off, going to maybe spend more time with friends. There's all these ways that people will start to cope. And this is why it leads to often a relationship dissolving or just being tumultuous, is if we're not prioritizing the bond and the connection, our system will adapt in a way to create a felt sense of safety or soothe with the level of what's true. It isn't fine. Not being connected is very distressing for anyone's nervous system. Now, I want to quickly speak to anyone who's maybe in a polyamorous situation or open relationship. Those can still be there, but what we're talking about in those settings is capacity. So the primary focus that still needs to be alive and present in those dynamics is the prioritization of the bond. So if there's a capacity to know and have an agreement with all people involved, what are the priorities, what the arrangements are in the bond, how everyone feels safe in it. And that matters. And there's boundaries and there's banks in it. I don't know it personally because I don't live it, but I imagine there's ways where that could be a safe situation, but it's still all going to land in the same thing that we're speaking to. And there needs to be that prioritization of the bond. And good for you. You know, it makes me think of one of my mentors, David Data. He says it in his book, The Way of the Superior Man. Dude, if you have the capacity to be with more than one feminine and the great mystery she is and her forever changing emotions and desires and all the things, if you can do more than one, go for it. That's not me. And when I heard him say that, I'm like, that's not me either. Like, this is already such an initiation to journey in life with you as we are consistently evolving and changing. How do we prioritize and tend and nurture a bond where it's felt for both of us? For me, that's a forever practice.
And being able to be flexible enough that when our partner sticks their hand up and goes, I gotta
slow down or ouch.
Yeah. My heart's shutting down, that we slow down, that we stop, that we pause, that we get curious, that we make a plan, you know. And just to speak, I want to give a little example of this, what Mike's talking about the coping strategies. So, and actually I shared this with Mike just before the podcast, and I don't think I've ever shared it with him because of my coping strategies. But this is a really good example of, so Mike can have this, he's very charismatic and attractive, and women can feel safe with him because he'll be really emotionally present. And so a common thing that can happen, not always, but it can happen, is that we go out in a social setting and women will sort of flock around him, and he'll have a bunch of women around him. And you've also in the past had a lot of female friends, right? And so this can kind of happen. And I can feel, right, that the women are feeling nourished by him in a certain way because he's emotionally present, and he's super sexy too. So they're getting to be with his super sexiness. And I can feel Mike is feeling filled up and appreciated, and, you know, the women are in about him. And I can think of this one particular time, and this is Courtney's coping strategy from when I was little. What I go into is really underneath, I'm feeling, where's my place? How do I get in there? What do I do? But the way it looks on the outside and how I mostly present is I go into, men, and women ogling at men. Like I have a coping strategy where I get annoyed about that, and I look down on it. I look down on, and I just like, this is just below me. And actually, when I think back, that was totally, as a teenager, I had that quality. I didn't have posters of boys on my wall. No, that's below me. But really underneath, I'm feeling, Mike, hello, am I here? What's happening? But not able to even feel that or reach towards. But I remember that this one particular time I'm thinking of that. Then I went into that like, ugh. But then guess what happened is then Mike felt me pull away, and he's trying to reach out to me, but he feels me pull away, and I'm in that energy. So then he pulls away even more. So then now I feel even more, oh yeah, right, here's this guy, and now he's pulling away, and he's just filling up his energy with other women, and other women are just giving him everything they've got. Like I went into this whole thing, but I was creating it because I was pulling away, right? And there's been a whole journey Mike and I have had about realizing I need to move towards and reach out and soften in that place and let him see the vulnerable part in me. And he's needing to feel that from me to know, oh, there's Courtney. Because, of course, we later unwound that he's over there wishing I'm hanging out with him. So I'm projecting, oh, he's getting filled up by these women. And he's over there going, well, where's Courtney? I want to connect with Courtney.
Every time I'd leave and we'd talk about it, I'm like, oh, I feel sad. I felt like we didn't spend enough time together, and I'd try, and I was reaching, and And it was so interesting for us to get to the deeper truth of what was going on versus what the coping strategy built story around.
And the important thing to understand is it's very recent, I'm even aware that underneath that is some sort of jealousy. And I think this is important to understand. For most of my life, and including those times, I mostly felt like I was fine and just kind of annoyed by the dynamic between the masculine and feminine. That was my awareness. And I wonder how many people out there, that's what's happening, is you feel fine, you think you're fine, you're totally in equanimity, but what if you got underneath? Like, what would be underneath there that maybe you aren't even aware of? And this is the invitation of sacred relationship, is softening into the more vulnerable parts that maybe you haven't been letting yourself feel, because guess what builds relationship? Is reaching from that softening. That's what intimacy is.
And reaching from the place that doesn't want to reach, because in the past it wasn't met well, and it's scary and it's unsafe. We're inviting an evolutionary relationship. We're inviting to take the risk. Take the risk. It might not be met, and keep reaching, find new ways to communicate, find new resources to send. As you know, if you're listening to this podcast and this is resonating with your situation, send it to your partner and invite an openness of, hey, can you listen to this and can we talk about it? It's finding the ways how to meet the other person to start to bring in more of the truth of, I'm not actually fine.
You know what I'm thinking of right now, just really briefly? We have friends that are this beautiful couple, and they've been together almost 20 years now. And I remember we were all by the river, and there was a whole community of people. And I remember looking over, and they've been together. They have 2 kids. They've been together almost 20 years. And I remember watching them, and they were sitting there and they were looking at each other. And there was so much love in their eyes and so much tenderness and a shyness, and what I learned in that watching them is, right, love is tender. They're not in the, we've been together for almost 20 years. And so, so we're in love, and they're in the feeling of love, and they're looking over at each other, and there's a bit of bashfulness, and their cheeks are rosy because they like each other so much, and they're giggling at what each other's saying. And that's what love is. So we have to actually soften enough to feel that together. Yeah.
Juicy.
So what we want to invite everyone into is, it's really about being allies in this place. We actually have to figure out how to create safety. Our goal is, how do we take this vulnerability and create safety from this place? And getting curious, because each of us is going to need something different in what's going to help us feel safe. In my story, what helps me feel safe is when Mike shows care about what I'm expressing, when he moves towards me with softness and concern, when he wants to find a way together. That creates 75% of the safety for me. The other 25% is his willingness to adjust how he's working with things or what he's doing around what would help me feel safe. So for example, me saying, I'm open to you collaborating with that woman, but then I need to connect with her. I need to have a relationship with her, so that, and that for me helps me feel safe. Or another one for me that helps me feel safe is knowing that at any point I can tell him when I'm starting to feel safe, and that he will stop, pause, listen, problem solve with me. Because then that helps me know, great, let's go out, let's create, let's follow our flow. And then I know the minute I put my hand up, the minute I wave my flag, you're going to stop. That helps me feel safe.
Yeah. And there's so much, like, if you get this and you understand this intellectually, it's going to be great. You're already going to be so much farther ahead in this dynamic if you're bumping up against it. And being real that there's a whole nother level of this to deepen in practice. Like, this is what we talk about here, and we can't go into all the hows and the practice of it, where it actually leads to deeper shifts and the full integration. But just to name, this is why we created Evolutionary Relationship, the Initiation. That's our program that we guide couples bi-weekly, where this is what we do. We go into the exact work that's unique to each couple in your nervous systems, in your attachment system, to rewire these places, because we're working with deep programming. We're working with the conditioning that happened from the environment you based it in. It is work, but it's the most rewarding work you will ever do, because it does lead to feeling a deep sense of belonging, feeling seen, heard, understood in the most intimate way. It creates that inner liberation and freedom. And so,
well, because this really, what this requires is you have to have done the work and be held as a couple to get clear what is needed, what is going to help you feel safe. You have to get clear, where are the places where I'm feeling jealous and I'm not saying. And also, for a lot of couples, they do need other nervous systems to help hold space for them to even be able to have the conversations, because I can't see your hands, but what I would say to you all is, show of hands, who actually gets nervous about even approaching this kind of conversation with their partner? I think a lot of people. And, I would say, a show of hands, how many of you out there are afraid to ever approach it again, because when you tried to approach it, it got reactive, it got crunchy, you felt unmet, it hurt so deeply that now you don't want to do it again. That is common. And so that's why, we create healing spaces like Evolutionary Relationship, because couples then need to come into a different field that's regulated and held to learn how to have these conversations in a safe way, to learn how to hear each other, and to learn how to then move through it.
yes. And the thing that's happening, every couple that's in our community or in our program would also say those same things that they're having a hard time with. And they would also raise their hands. But the thing that they're doing is they're reaching, they are moving towards, they're practicing the connecting in the places that are vulnerable or where there's been ouchies. And what's healing about it is when there's a whole room of people saying, oh, me too, it's so validating to this part of the nervous system of, oh, we're not the only ones. Oh, okay. So those couples feel so deeply in love and connected, but they also have parts that want to push away or feel jealous and all the things. And that's the whole point, is we're creating an environment where it all gets to be safe, but we're practicing it in the relational space, not just with two people in their home, because often there needs to be that other mirror back of pointing out the dynamic that's being witnessed. That doesn't happen if we're just in your own bedroom, going through the pattern over and over and over without someone seeing it.
Yeah, it's a whole art that we have to feel in our body. And so this is the other thing that we wanted to talk about. Our last point here is that not only do we need to go through it together and become allies, we also need to take self-responsibility for the jealousy we feel. So it's an and situation, going through it together and taking self-responsibility. So for example, in the story about my jealousy that was coming up with Mike, it's still my job. So even though we're working through it together, it's still my job to keep working with that part of me that's feeling insecure. It's still my job to deepen in relationship with that little girl inside, to help her come into safety with Mike, to help her reach out, to build my capacity of trust for him. And trust is built over time. It's built through this process that we're doing together. So it's an and situation. And, because for some of you, you may have tried to go down the road of healing something like this together, and then you just get stuck collapsing into each other. This is another common one for couples, right? Where, well, I just won't ever do anything that triggers that in you, and you just don't ever do anything that triggers that in me. And that's also not the way. That's why our offering is called Evolutionary Relationship. We want to evolve. We want the togetherness to evolve us. So we have to be together, but we also have to then evolve and grow these parts. But the beauty is it's easier to heal these parts when we have the safety and the love and the connection with our partner in that, right? And my capacity has grown. My trust in Mike has grown, through us doing it together. And also with this dynamic where women, come towards him and I would go off and do my own thing and be fine because, that's beneath me. How embarrassing. I'm being real. But really, ultimately, it's my job to work with that part to learn how to move towards Mike, to learn how to move towards the connection, to soften in how I'm perceiving this situation. Mike can't fix that for me, but he can absolutely be an ally for me in bringing in the ingredients that help me feel safe in the bond.
And it's been one of the most satisfying things for any partner out there listening to this, if you can feel your resonant experience in what you're describing here, Courtney. For the other side, it's so satisfying and fulfilling to become the person that can hold both, still move towards and advocate for the thing that feels sovereign and autonomous, but be in the care and learn how to slow down and really get to know what you're needing to feel connected and evolve with whatever that path is. And just be able to slow down that pace and care about that is so satiating inside because it's relational. That's the place where we feel the deepest sense of belonging, is where we're actually attuning to each other and both people feel present. Both people feel seen. Both people feel understood. That is the place of belonging. Like, oh, whoa, what? We both get to be here and be different and care about each other. Oh, that's where the relief is. That's where we get to rewrite these stories that the little kids in us are still living out until we start to rewrite it and bring in new ingredients and show, hey, there is someone that cares and we can do this together, and we're still going to move in the direction of this is really uncomfortable and I'm going to stretch my edge because I love my partner. So as an example, it could have been easy in that situation to go like, this is your stuff, like you need to work with that. But it was so satiating to really care and hear, oh God, this doesn't feel good for you. Oh, let's figure out what you need to feel good in this. But then also, me finding the place inside to go, oh, there's a part of this that's really important to me. Being connected, a part of the community, and offering over just myself to the people in our life. So I want that too. And then how do we do this together?
Yeah. So we want you to take away these words. I'm going to say it again. Jealousy isn't the threat. Disconnection is.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for Mike to share this story because for me, it's a really good example of where I got to learn about what it feels like to have where he had jealousy coming up and he was willing to take self-responsibility, and how relieving that was for me as his partner to realize I could be his ally in what was coming up for him, and he was going to grow through it. How liberating, how refreshing.
How empowering.
How empowering. Oh, I can adjust and meet Mike in what he's needing, but then he's going to grow through it. And now we've healed a deeper layer and we have new ground from which to stand upon. Whoa. Right? Versus the old story of, I'm going to have to adjust around Mike and then be collapsed in that part of my life for the rest of my life. Right? Is the old story. Or, oh, great, I'm going to have to push away to assert that this is who I am and this is what I want, but I'm going to lose you. You're going to go farther and farther away because you're going to feel hurt by me. And both of those is this conundrum-y, icky place. And now this, oh, it's both. I can have both. We can give Mike what he needs, and we can be connected and evolve into a life that deeply fulfills both of us.
And then for me to lean into, who do I have to become? What work do I need to do? What support do I need to lean into and learn about, or draw from to learn about, so that I can do this thing? I can't think of any experiences where I've been jealous, so I'll make one up here.
Wait, that's not true.
Just to really hit the point home.
You're not quite at the place of the vulnerability, I see.
Oh God, have I ever been jealous in my life? Just I may look strong and confident, which I am. That's a big part of me, but I have a lot of insecurity. Those of you who know the Gene Keys, I got the inadequacy one, and it gets triggered. And it's been a journey being with a woman like you that's very empowered and very clear in what you want to experience in this life, and not going to shut down, which is what I called in for a partner. I just want to name that. In my previous marriage, I had the experience where they would just collapse or appease, and it wasn't enjoyable. Actually, it's not what I actually wanted. But you, as an empowered feminine, it's been an initiation. My initiation that Courtney's talking about in this one was when she decided that you wanted to start going to temple practices with other women.
We call it Tantric Temple, and it's with sisters that I know and love. And we do relational practices together. We deepen we do energetic rituals and ceremonies. It's so beautiful and deeply healing. And we decided we wanted to bring in nudity as part of it. So we would be naked, doing a sacred practice together, and not sexual. We're not being sexual, but we are being intimate and present together and naked in our bodies. Super healing, super beautiful, so sacred.
Triggering as fuck. For me, and just the nature of my journey of how I grew up, lots of shame around sexual energy and nudity, lots of it. And I know I've talked to many of you in person and clients over the years. It's a place for a lot of people where there was a lot of sexual shaming, where it wasn't safe to be in full expression of sexual energy. Maybe as a kiddo you tried, and then the parents or Catholicism or whatever your version is. My version was all of those things. And it really created a wound around this that has limited my capacity to be just so safe and secure and in my spine to be okay with that authentically and without bypassing and overriding. And so it was a journey to feel, okay, here's this thing you're really wanting to do. I know it's going to fill your cup. I know it's nourishing for you to deepen with sisters in that way, and just the immensity of healing for you to journey and push against conditioning and culture as sisters, in those places.
Well, there's so much healing that can happen for women just in being naked together and unwinding layers of judgment about bodies. And there's so much. So much.
And so I could feel that, and I knew this. And so I wanted to offer the experience, but my nervous system couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold it alone. And so we had conversations around it, and we were moved through some uncomfortable conversations, and there was care on each side of hearing each side. And then
including me being totally willing, saying I can pause it and not go until we can establish more safety.
Yeah, in me, there was just pure panic and terror. So the vulnerable experience for me in my body, if I got out of, because I can dissociate and numb out and bypass a little bit. I've done enough work where my body won't let me for very long, but I could feel the place where, yeah, great, fine, do it. But then I'll just go into the coping strategy and I'll pull away and I'll withdraw and maybe be passive aggressive and resentful. And so we had the uncomfortable conversation, and then I felt inside of me this knowing I can't hold this on my own. So I leaned into my support, my relational resource and got the help that that part of me needed so that I could be oriented into, whoa, okay, what part of this is just little Mike remembering the unsafety in this terrain from when he was a kid, and then how much of this is actually true in what's happening right now. And by the end of it, I felt such a relief to feel the bigger perspective. Oh, this will actually be in service to me if I can become the man that can hold this. And me then orienting to the deeper truth of, you are the safest person I think I've ever met in partnership, who is so devoted, so fiercely monogamous. Like, since I've, from early on in our relationship to now, where that is what's true for you and you are committed here. And so much evidence hits that home time and time again. And so it was really satisfying to get the help and support, orientation, to feel what I needed to be able to offer it. And this support person gave me exactly what I needed to hold myself and my nervous system in the exact situation that would be a repatterning and a healing for me. And then surprisingly, following that guidance led to me being able to do it. And then it wasn't even a thing. I was so present with my own experience when you went off to go to your next temple practice that I was previously so terrified for you to do. You went off and I was just having the best time that day. And I remember receiving you when you came home and I was just excited. How was it? Tell me about it. Whatever you can, holding confidentiality, but your experience of it, what was that like? And I was satiated by you coming home, feeding and nurturing the thing you want to evolve into, you want a part of your life. But then I got the satisfaction of, I provided that, even though some part of me was believing that I couldn't do it, and some part of me that would have probably wanted to control you and say, you can't do it. But wow, what a cool thing to find a way where I could take personal responsibility for what I needed and the personal responsibility for my role in this partnership. I chose you, a person who will forever be evolving into edges that are going to touch my places. And there is no comfort here of just, well, now we're here and nothing's going to change and it's going to be okay. It's always going to be evolving. Both of us are that way. And so, yay, that we have these tools and these principles to lean into so that we can deepen the sense of connection and care and belonging and being seen and relief and inner peace by navigating and approaching it in this way. Not just, yeah, it's fine, go do it, but not actually being real.
Well, and it felt so good for me because I feel like the muscle I've been having to learn, like I spoke to earlier, is to have what I'm wanting instead of pushing away and asserting, this is what's true for me, this is who I am. Moving towards with care, concern, a willingness to adjust, a willingness to pause, like so much openness to being curious in it, and how I saw that also help. And also, it was so helpful when you shared from the vulnerable place. One of the pieces you shared that really clicked for me was when you said, I need to feel really good in our sexual connection and in our intimacy. And then that's what's going to help me feel even better about you going out in that way. And of course, context, right? We have a toddler. And so we do pretty good in tending our sex life, and there's some weeks, right? Oh, like I had a cold, and oh, then our son had a cold. Oh, and then we had some late nights. Okay, now we're it's not as alive, and then that can shape how we're able, how you were able to feel good about me going out in that way, and that was so helpful to see that and realize that is part of my role, is how to make sure then to tend to that part of us even more to support me being able to go out and do these practices with sisters, and really to know it's not really about you not supporting what I'm doing. Really, it's more about how do we support your nervous system and attachment system to feel safe, right? I think so often in the past for me in relationship, and what I notice happens lots for clients that we work with, is they get hyper focused on what the thing is, like in this case, the tantra, the practices, and it's actually missing the boat of it's not really about that. A little bit about that, but mostly about the safety and the ground that's needed in the bond itself.
Yeah. And just the name, sometimes it is about that thing.
Yeah.
So if your partner's approaching like, I want an open relationship, and there's no part of you at all that would ever have wanted that. Yeah, there's a boundary, and that might be a place of sorting out and getting really clear on what's the most important thing, the priority. And that's a whole different episode. But just naming where there's places like this that we're describing, where there's an invitation to evolve and grow. It's how do we move through this together? What are the feelings actually saying? For me, the jealousy was saying, and my vulnerable truth is, oh, I'm actually partly afraid to expose how much I'm maybe not satisfied with the sexual intimacy and wanting more and longing for more and figuring out how part of me is afraid to even say that, or to develop the relational skill to have the conversation, to figure out how can we bring this online more, or even more so, how can I become the man to mobilize and initiate situations where that can happen. So often these places of insecurity are inviting a deeper acknowledgement inside of, oh, there is an unmet need here that I'm being invited to learn how to have met by being more relational, by being more attuned, not just blaming the other person for the things that they're doing that's pointing the place of not getting met. Because it's not most of the time, it's not about that. It's easy to project, oh, if you didn't do that thing, I wouldn't feel this way. But what we're inviting is, no, let's get to know what the thing we're feeling that's so vulnerable and scary is actually saying, care about that on each side, and then go at the pace that's needed for the new thing to happen, which again is part of why we have the initiation with couples is we create a pace where things can integrate and where we can build out that inner foundation and safety so that we can both evolve into the person you were born to be.
Well, and I imagine a question I have just before we end, my imagining is in me showing care about that and me wanting to hear and meet you in that would help the part of you that maybe would feel inadequate or not enough.
Yeah, well, I'll speak to my own orientation as a man in a male body. This is just, take your own experience as you guys listening, however it lands. But for me, I know that I have a deep biological orientation to provide. And I look back at my whole journey, I am built to provide. I want to provide. But I need to feel cared for and respected to want to provide. So you're right. You showing care, you hearing my side of the experience. I remember even when I brought up the conversation, things started to speed up a little bit and I started to feel a bit defensive and starting to go in a bit of a push away. And I remember bringing in some assertiveness of like, I really need you to hear me here. I hear what you're needing. I need to feel heard here. And I remember you really just sat back, you slowed down, you heard me, you cared about it. And I remember we both just moved into this softness, and following one of the tools that we use in our program with couples, we used it and we moved through in this really elegant way where at the end of it, I felt seen, I felt heard, you felt seen and heard, and then we had a pathway of what to do. And then inside of me, because of that, because of what you were able to offer, I want to provide this. It's going to be work. It's going to be initiation. I don't even know what the full picture is yet. And that's what led to me leaning into my support. And then I got the map, I got the pathway, I got the tools. And then I was all in on providing it. knowing that it also would be in service to me. Also, like, it wasn't just I think where a lot of couples get stuck is thinking, oh, I have to do this thing for you, or I have to be in this discomfort for you. What we're saying is this is in service to you, evolving into the person that can offer and attune in this way. So satiating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a deepening of trust in the process together.
Yeah. And then more connected.
And so for any of you listening, if this resonates, first of all, we'd love to hear any comments, anything, questions, anything that came up. And we'd love a 5-star rating. Also sharing the podcast episode with someone that you think would find it helpful. Any way of spreading this around, we're just so grateful. And we really want to invite you, if you are on the pulse of this, if you're feeling it, if you and your partner are in this journey of sacred relationship and you're hitting these walls, you're hitting those places, you're in aware of it, but not quite breaking through, or there's maybe a few places that are extra sticky, This is why, or maybe for some of you, you can feel the potential of a sacred relationship, but there's so much crunch that's developed, or so many crunchy places that you can't get to what you feel is there underneath, or what you're desiring.
Or if you're like some of the couples that we hear where you listen to all the episodes and you so get it and you're all on board and it's such a passionate topic for you, but you go home and it's the same old dynamic and it's not really integrating. That's really the place where this program, our signature program comes in. It's the thing to create the deep shift. We will hold your hands through it.
Well, to actually practice it, right? To actually create real shifts in your nervous system. And our nervous systems and attachment systems, they need experience. They need a new felt sense, and they need new mirrors. So we need to actually see it in action. We need to actually be a part of relationship in action for it to land deeper in our neural pathways. And so this is the benefit to journeying with other couples. It's the benefit of being in a room with Mike and I where we're modeling and doing the practices too. And it's amazing what it does for couples when it's actually booked in the calendar, that every second week you're sitting down together, focusing on your relationship and doing the practices. And that itself for a year it can't not create transformation. It just does. It will. We journey with really powerful themes that are a process we take you through too, that take couples into this initiation of a sacred partnership. And we have couples that range all the way from couples that have a lot of connection and a lot of goodness and are really creating in the world, and there's a few sticky places that they're wanting to work with, all the way to couples that it's been really clunky and they know there's love there, but it's been really hard to find it and to feel it, and they're co-creating life, but they're not really clear what they're creating and why they're creating it. And there's all of the spectrum in between. And there is a seat for you here. And we'd love it if you're interested, if you're feeling the call, reach out. Right at the top, we have a link to book a call with Mike and I to dive in deeper for you and your partner to explore whether you're ready to jump in.